Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry.
I'm Rachel.
And today we have a very special video for you all. We are talking Oscars. So both Rachel and I are going to just kind of talk about our biggest Oscar snubs in history, ones that just kind of like hurt us to the core, whether that be films that didn't get nominated for this category or that, or films that were nominated or actors that were nominated that just didn't win, although they were superior to the eventual winners. But we're also going to talk about kind of our picks for the worst Oscar winners, whether that be for Best Picture or other categories, winners that we just didn't agree with at all. So why don't you go ahead and start us off with your first pick.
I have two old classics that I want to talk about first, and then we'll do mostly contemporary. But I think you got to say How Green Was My Valley beating Citizen Kane for Best Picture. Wow. Citizen Kane is widely regarded as the best technically made movie ever made. Whether you like it as your number one movie, it's certainly up there in the conversation for the best movie ever made. And there are literally classes in film school where they study it frame by frame by frame, the lighting, the shadows, the everything. And How Green Was My Valley was a good movie. Yeah. It's solid. It's emotional. Maureen O'Hara is really great in it, and it's solid, but it's just not great. It's just not great. Nobody is out there studying How Green Was My Valley frame by frame.
No.
So that's one. Also, I think in All About Eve, Anne Baxter and Bette Davis were both nominated for Best Actress. They split each other, basically, and so Judy Holliday ended up winning for, it's like The Country Girl or something like that. No, but I can't even remember it. Yeah. But both of those are two of the most iconic performances in the history of film, and so one of them should have won, and not this movie that nobody remembers.
Just this random. Okay.
Yeah. So those would be my two classic snubs.
Well, thank you for putting those ones in there. So I'm going to start off with kind of my controversial pick, and that is, I don't think No Country for Old Men should have won Best Picture. I think it should have been There Will Be Blood that year.
I haven't even seen it, but I agree, because I let her go.
I'm just I love There Will Be Blood. I think it's an amazing film. No Country for Old Men, I understand, I guess technically, why people love it as much as they do. I just found it to be, I just kind of find it to be dull, honestly. And it's a movie with a subject matter that should not really be dull. Javier Bardem is very good in it, but it's not as good as Daniel Day-Lewis. So I don't know. I just think There Will Be Blood was a better film and should have won Best Picture.
Yeah, I haven't seen A Country Full of Men, but I do actually love There Will Be Blood. It's just, I think, one of the great American films.
Yeah.
And so I agree.
There you go.
Yeah, good pick.
Maybe it's not as controversial as I thought.
So I actually have two films that I don't think personally should have won. The first one is Birdman and the Unexpected Virtue whatever movie. And then the other one is American Beauty. And both of these movies have their fans, but I found that I felt like Birdman, although it looked beautiful and the one take was really great, Emmanuel Lubezki totally deserved best cinematography, I have no problem, best editing, no problem. But for me, I felt like all of the women characters were shrill, were judgmental, and then it was all sort of leading up to this critic who's the most shrill, the most judgmental character in the whole movie. And it kind of bothered me. I'm not the most SJW person in the world, but I just left being couldn't there have been one moment of one female character, the daughter's super judgy, the Naomi Watts character is basically almost raped on stage because Edward Norton wants to be artistic, and I don't know, I just didn't, I hated the ending, I thought it was terrible, and so I really didn't like it, and although I thought it was pretty, and I give Emmanuel Lubezki full props. And then American Beauty, I felt like it was very pretentious. We gotta have a floating bag to symbolize suburbia, and I just felt I don't know. I felt like all of the characters were very creepy and unpleasant, and I get maybe that's part of what he was trying to say about suburbia and American culture and stuff. But I don't know. I just found it very kind of heavy-handed and unpleasant to watch, and just kind of full of itself. I didn't really like it, and so yeah,
Alright.
there you go.
So my only other shouldn't have won is actually from this past year, and it's an actress, and that's Emma Stone. So I liked La La Land, and it was one of my favorite films of 2016, actually. I really enjoyed it, and I thought Emma Stone was perfectly fine. She filled the role she was supposed to fill in that movie, but I don't really think that it stretched her as an actress. I think she kind of was playing an Emma Stone role, and I've had conversations. A male playing that kind of role would have never won the Oscar for Best Actor. And it's a problem with the Academy in general that if you look at the female category, it's always filled with off movies that never have a shot at winning Best Picture. But all the ones in the Best Actor category, those are the really good films. So it's a big commentary on the Oscars themselves. But I also just think Emma Stone didn't give the best performance last year.
Yeah.
If you saw in pretty much any of those other films, or like Annette Bening in 20th Century Women, who didn't even get nominated.
Yeah, or Kate Beckinsale in Love and Friendship.
Yeah, like there were so many.
That was an amazing performance.
I personally loved Natalie Portman in Jackie. Any of the other actresses really, and
I agree with you.
I think there were so many better performances. I think she was just kind of like the hot pick, the ingenue type that beat out everyone else. And I'm like, ugh, I don't know.
Yeah. I had on my list Kate Beckinsale getting snubbed because that was certainly my favorite female leading performance.
She was great.
She was just so good.
Yeah.
And I agree with you there. Or certainly one of the actresses in Moonlight, but I guess they were. Really, what should have happened is
Viola Davis should have won for Best Actress.
Yeah, so that they could get Nicole Kidman the supporting Oscar, I think, because that was or Michelle Williams. Those were true supporting performances that were very, very
what's
moving.
Her name? The mom from Moonlight.
Her name?
I can't remember her name either, but she was really good.
Yeah, she was great. Sorry if you can't remember your name.
Yeah, also, that's a great point, Viola Davis. But then
she would have beat Emma Stone.
Yeah. I was like, that's the only thing that would have made me maybe a little bit more mad is if Emma Stone had beaten Viola Davis. Then I would have been really up in arms. But, they would have been crazy.
So I have a bunch from 2014. Let's just talk about 2014 for a second.
Okay, 2014.
So there's a bunch. So I don't think that Birdman should have won Best Screenplay. I think that there were a number of films that were even if you love Birdman, I just don't think the screenplay is the reason to love it. The style, the performances, whatever. But I don't think the screenplay was that great. And I think that the screenplay by Wes Anderson for Grand Budapest Hotel was by far the best that year. This is probably the best screenplay he will ever do. And it's a shame because, there were so many technical awards that movie won that year, but he didn't end up winning anything. And so it's a shame because I think that he deserved it for that movie.
I completely agree. That was actually one that was on my list. The Grand Budapest Hotel not winning for the screenplay was pretty outrageous. I think it was far and away the best screenplay, original or adapted, honestly, in my opinion, of that year. With Grand Budapest getting recognized in so many categories and not getting screenplay, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, agreed. And then also I would say Richard Linklater not getting Best Director for Boyhood. I personally think there are 7 of the 9 nominees that were better than Birdman that year. But even if you don't want to give that, I just feel like Richard Linklater deserved that Best Director award, or certainly Wes Anderson. I just don't think Inarritu deserved. Emmanuel Lubezki, yes, he deserved it. But I don't think that Inarritu deserved it for Birdman. So there you go. Also, that was the year that the Lego Movie got snubbed. It wasn't nominated, and I think it was definitely, if you were going mainstream, it was definitely one of the best. It was certainly better than the Box Trolls. And I like the Box Trolls. But I think the Lego Movie, you'll find very few people who will say the Lego Movie is a worse movie than the Box Trolls.
My personal bone to pick that year is I think How to Train Your Dragon 2 should have beaten Big Hero 6, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
That's just me.
One that I feel like was definitely undeserving of a nomination was Bridge of Spies, and I can't remember if that was 2015 or 2014. But anyway, I just felt like this was a standard, competent, a little boring, a lot of plot holes, but it was fine. But I just didn't think it was one of the best of the year. Far from it. Or I think I give it like a C+. So yeah, I mean, just because I had such expectations.
Yeah.
The Spielberg movie with Tom Hanks is gonna be great. Written by the Coen brothers. It wasn't that great. Some others that I had on my list was this is an obscure one, but last year not nominating The Dressmaker for Best Costumes. This was a movie that literally the costumes had a traveling exhibit that went from like town to town in Australia, and like they were that beautiful that they were like literally works of art. And the movie's wacko and crazy, and I kind of loved it for that. But like the costumes were amazing, and I mean that year they had just amazing costumes in Love and Friendship and in The Dressmaker that I think deserved nominations.
Yeah, I agree. I don't remember if Cinderella got nominated, but it didn't win.
No, it didn't win. Mad Max won.
Which I love Mad Max, but I loved personally the costumes in Cinderella.
The costume award is so weird because there's like 3 women who have won like 20 of them.
Yeah,
like there's just like Colleen Atwood, and like there's like 3. The one who does all the Wes Anderson movies. There's like these 3 women that are like monopolizing the category. It's really funny. So some more that I had on my list is definitely no song nomination for Sing Street last year. There was definitely better than that Sting song.
Oh god.
And like that was very forgettable. And so I think Drive It Like You Stole It was better than either of La La Land songs, in my opinion. And it should have.
Yeah, it really made no sense. I was pretty shocked. I thought for sure we were gonna get Sing Street to La La Land, Moana. For sure, we're like almost locks in the category. Nope, I guess not.
Yeah.
It was I
ridiculous.
don't know. Especially after the like Golden Globe showed some Sing Street love a little bit, and then it just nope, guess not.
Yeah, they really botched the marketing of that movie. They botched just everything about it. They really botched the Oscars.
The song category is very strange to me. Actually, I do love me some Lana Del Rey, but I was pretty upset she didn't get nominated for Young and Beautiful from The Great Gatsby. I was also upset that See You Again from Furious 7 didn't get nominated because it was such an emotional and like personal song to the movie, but
yeah,
I don't know.
It's just a weird category. I mean, I was talking with my friends that the Tony Awards doesn't have a best song category, and yet the Oscars does. Like, songs are actually essential to a Broadway show. But they don't have a best song,
it's
very weird. Very weird. I think that George Miller not winning for Mad Max Fury Road is ridiculous. Like he, like all the again, just like Grand Budapest Hotel, all the technical awards basically went to him and his movie. And so like if he can manage to coordinate the editing and the costumes and the makeup and the all of that, the visual effects, everything, like how can he not win best director? Like it's not best screenplay. Like if people had some issues maybe with the screenplay, we're talking about directing. Like how it was just definitely and so Inarritu won again, and you're just like
no, that one I really think that Mad Max and George Miller losing out to Best Director that year was just, I thought it was crazy. I knew it was coming. I knew that The Revenant was going to steal it, but I was so upset. And I think I was even more upset because Inarritu went on the campaign trail and really complained and really talked about all the struggle about shooting in natural light and shooting in the Arctic and all this other crazy stuff.
Again, Manuel Lubezki, good job!
And then George Miller, he didn't go out and complain about it all, but then we heard the stories of all of the troubles that they had making Mad Max, the sand
desert.
It was just as grueling of an experience as The Revenant was. But George Miller just didn't go out and complain and tell everyone what a hard time it was, and then, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, I guess.
Well, and the biggest whiner is not supposed to win the Academy Award.
And it's like you just awarded Iñárritu the year before, and George Miller is a veteran. Academy, aren't you all about, like, it's your time? Well, it was his time, and he was the best director. He should have won.
So I only have one more on my list, and this one's kind of broke my heart. This was 2010. This is when we only had 3 nominees this year for Best Animated Feature Film, and my poor little Tangled got snubbed. And I love Tangled. It's one of my favorite Disney animated films. It really connected with me. Things like the lanterns I just thought was so beautiful, and I really loved. It was like their first romantic comedy that Disney really ever did, where it was truly about a couple and a couple bonding. I loved the villain. I loved the villain's song. I loved the Alan Menken music. I just really loved it. And they had an indie who won called The Illusionist, and it's a good film. It's a beautiful film in many ways, but to me, I felt like the characters were kind of kept at a distance. And we weren't allowed to really like deep into what they were feeling and what they were doing. And so for me, I really felt like that Tangled should have gotten that 3rd spot. And so they basically you have to have 12 films that are nominated in order to have 5 nominations. So I just wish we'd had 5. Now we have like 27 films submitted, so we'll always have 5 for Best Animated Feature Film. But back then they only had 3. And so that's why Tangled got snubbed, and it didn't even win Best Song, but the one that did win was really good. I don't know, I just felt like that deserved to be nominated for Best Animated Film that year.
So the last few that I had that I wanted to talk about, the first 3 that I'm going to mention here all have to do with maybe me being a little bit of a Jake Gyllenhaal fanboy, I'm not sure, but I think he really deserves an Oscar at this point. He's becoming Leo DiCaprio status in my eyes. But in particular, him not even getting nominated for the Nightcrawler was just outrageous. Like, I could not believe it. My jaw hit the floor. I was just so stunned. I don't know. I loved Nightcrawler a lot. It was my second favorite film of that year, actually. So I wanted to see it get nominated for more things. But I was pretty sure Jake Gyllenhaal was a shoo-in to at least get nominated, and I think he should have won. But what can you do, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem like there's sort of like a little kind of club that, like, once you're sort of in, like, and then certain people just have a really hard time getting in that club for some reason. I don't know if they just tick people off, or maybe they're not very nice to work with, or who knows, we have no idea. But, like, it does seem like there's just like certain actresses and actors that just can't. I guess we'll see get in the club.
If Gyllenhaal gets nominated for Stronger this year. I mean, it's another Academy level performance from him, and I mean, last 2 he's put in, he hasn't even got nominated. And that other film, Nocturnal Animals, actually was my favorite film of 2016. And I was so upset it didn't get nominated for screenplay. Like, just the nomination. It only got the supporting actor nomination, which was fine. I wanted to see it get nominated for more. Even talking about costume design, another beautifully costumed film. So definitely should have got nominated there. And then the third Jake Gyllenhaal film that I was like, oh, this is a shock, was Brokeback Mountain losing to Crash. And I think a lot of people were pretty shocked. And not only was this just a snub in the general sense of Brokeback Mountain is a superior film to Crash, it had won all of the precursor awards. I think it holds the record still for winning the most Best Picture awards and then losing at the Oscars. It was pretty crazy. Ang Lee won for director, and then of course it brought into fact like subject matter and controversy there. But just on a filmmaking standpoint, I think obviously narratively it's much stronger, and Ang Lee did a beautiful job with that film. All the actors did a wonderful job, so I was just like, ugh. Really Academy.
Yeah, and then you have Shakespeare in Love beating Saving Private Ryan, which I think Shakespeare in Love is perfectly entertaining.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is nearly as strong as Saving Private Ryan.
Or even like as much. I'm one of the people who still kind of defends Forrest Gump. I like Forrest Gump, but I don't like it as much as I like Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
So I definitely think Shawshank Redemption was also a little bit robbed when it comes to that category as well.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. I mean, really, like people have a hard time even remembering who won last year. So like we think it's like this big deal. I'm sure to the actors it is a big deal, but like for in reality, it's really not. You know, it's not a big deal. Like, and the true memorable performances, the memorable films will really last whether they get an Oscar or not. Clearly, Citizen Kane, proof of that, right?
Yes. So many classic films.
Yeah, and I think that certain movies just get a lot of are sort of creatures of the moment, and then just don't last the test of time.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see what happens this year. I'm sure there will be plenty of controversy to go around, plenty of upset film fans, and definitely moviegoers who continue to watch the Oscars and not know a single movie because they didn't go watch any of those.
Yeah.
And none of the movies they like got nominated.
Right. And then you have like Suicide Squad, Academy Award winner. So you just never know with the Oscars.
And I actually don't have a huge problem. I do think Star Trek had better makeup.
Yeah, for sure.
But what can you do, right? What can you do? The fact that is the Oscar-winning superhero film is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. But and I think actually Big Hero 6 and The Incredibles are the only superhero movies to actually win. Maybe for score, or visual effects, maybe. But yeah.
Yeah, because they won for animation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then other than
Suicide Squad. Heath Ledger.
Oh yeah.
Heath
Ledger. Oh. Yeah. So those are our picks for some of the biggest snubs and some of the worst winners in Oscars history. I'm sure you have thoughts when it comes to Oscars and the films that we put forth here. I know we put forth some fan favorites in our worst picks, and I'm sure you hopefully agree with some of our picks. But let us know, who do you think were the biggest snubs in history, and who are your least favorite Oscar winners? Let us know in the comments, or you can hit either of us up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Make sure that you go over and support Rachel's channel, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.